Well, my friends, it is not Wednesday, it is Thursday, November 2nd in the year 2023. But no matter, it's time for another episode number 127 of Material Issues. Another great episode on tap. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. I'm over here on the East Coast where it's getting dark awfully early. Sunday we'll roll the clocks back, it'll get even darker. Dave was mentioning, can't see, it's like a cave behind me. That's because there's no sunlight coming in. But joining me as he always does, it's middle of the afternoon in Southern California. My good friend David Bash of the International Pop Overthrow Festival. David, how the heck are you today?
I'm well, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to the show tonight. We had, as we always do, we had a material issue with getting the PC fired up for some reason. I guess it's because I was in Epcot in Florida last week when we went live. My nice Epcot pin right there, Food and Wine Festival 2023, where I visited my daughters, had a great time, ate a lot, and ran around Epcot. But glad to be back here in South Jersey, doing the thing. All fuzzy.
You're
There
all
we
fuzzy.
go. There we go. Hey, it's a fuzzy kind of day. What's new in your world?
Well, I finally got the extenders. This is always a great way to start a podcast, right? I finally got the extenders on my lower denture and the perforation. So now I can just snap them in, and they're very, very secure. No more having to use fixative down here.
Nice.
So yeah, the implant, the whole thing is done now. I would like to get the same for up here, but implants are really expensive. So one day, but it was real. This is the one that was always coming out. So having the implants has been great. So that was a good thing.
That's cool.
Oh, nice announcement to make. I posted this on Facebook, but maybe not everyone has seen it yet. On opening night of IPO New York, which will be next Thursday at the Parkside Lounge, the final band on the bill is the Malibus.
Oh, yeah.
Who's a band who has played IPO many times. It features Walter Egan of Magnet and Steel fame, and John Zambetti, who's the main man. And singing with them, hey, Jordan, good to see you. And singing with them will be none other than the Bond girl solitaire herself, Elise McKenna, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Yeah, Ms. Jane Seymour will be joining them on stage.
And that is exactly what time so I can show up? What?
Well, Thursday at 11:15, the Malibus will be on. I don't know when they're arriving.
So the Malibus with Jane Seymour. Wow, what a crush I had on Jane Seymour.
Yeah,
probably
me
still
too.
Do,
when I first saw Somewhere in Time, I don't think I even saw Live and Let Die when it came out. But when I first saw Somewhere in Time, I thought this is the most elegant, classy lady I've ever seen. And wow, she's so beautiful too. Yeah, I had a huge crush on her for a bit after I saw that movie.
And she's going to be live on stage at IPO New York with the Malibus.
Yeah, I really look forward to meeting her. And congratulations to John Zambetti for dating her.
Yeah.
Good job, sir.
Good job.
Yeah.
I'd pat myself on the back too.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he is. Quickly, a few new things.
Yeah.
We'll just go quickly on this because we have a guest. A new album by Pugwash main man Thomas Walsh called The Rest of History. Yes, it really is. I got both the LP and CD because I love the album so much. Obviously, very Pugwash-like, but more serene, more pastoral, more orchestrated. Just a really, really gorgeous album. He's such a talented guy.
Really
so this just came out on Curation Records. You can order it. I think you'd want to order it through their Bandcamp. That's the best way to go. So check that out. Band from the UK who played IPO Liverpool a few years ago called Logan's Close. This album's called Heart Shaped Jacuzzi as opposed to Heart Shaped Box. Not strictly a pop album. They're a bit more of a rock band, but those harmonies. I don't know if you remember the band King Washington from LA.
No.
Definitely a happening band out here who just had the most amazing vocal harmonies, especially between the two lead singers. This has a lot of that. Is this Bob Hutton by chance who said the Logan's Close album is superb? Because he's the one who mentioned to me that it was coming out. So thank you very much for that. If this is Bob. Anyway, check this out. I think, trying to remember if they have a Bandcamp or it's just on their website or whatever. But I would recommend this to anyone who likes their pop a little bit more rockin', but replete with just beautiful harmonies. So check that out. A little reissue box set very quickly here. Oh, thank you, Bob. Late 80s UK band with a female lead singer, the Darling Buds. Do you remember them?
Oh, I remember them, yeah.
Yep, wonderful, they now have a box set called Killing for Love, which has their first five albums, I believe, or four albums, bunch of bonus tracks, and a disc of rarities and unreleased. I don't know if all these albums actually came out on CD, but they are now. Nice. It's a cherry red. It's a cherry red release, licensed from Sony, and so it's going to be top shelf. I haven't opened the box yet; I just got it, but I'm sure it'll be a great book. And if you like that female power, UK late 80s power pop, this is one, along with the Primitives, for example. Yeah. This is kind of in a similar vein. Just great stuff. So check that out on Cherry Red. All right, enough of that. We have a great guest today, and
fantastic. Yeah,
I've been a fan of his ever since I heard the debut album by his band, The Pursuit of Happiness. Fortunately, K-Rock in Los Angeles played the hit single "I'm an Adult Now" quite a bit. And as soon as I heard that, I thought I need to buy this album. And I did, and I was thrilled with all the other great tracks on it, like She's So Young and Walking Through the Woods and so many other ones. After that, the Pursuit of Happiness released several more albums, and many of which I think are also great. And since then, he has been producing a lot of bands, including the James Clark Institute, IPO mainstays from the Toronto area, who played Liverpool a few times. He just produced their latest album, and he's played on a few of theirs as well. But his latest project, or project, as they say in Canada, and this is really cool, Trans-Canada Highwaymen, along with Craig Northey of Odds and Stephen Page of Bare Naked Ladies, and Chris Murphy of Sloan, KCB. Not sure who that is, but hi anyway.
We're glad they're in the house.
Yeah, we really are. Anyway, so this is kind of an all-star thing, and they do covers of huge Canadian hits from mostly the 70s, and they do a really fine job on it. And yeah, it's a fun album, especially if you're from Canada, because you'll remember a lot of some of these songs never made it on the charts in this country, but yeah, really good stuff. Anyway, enough of that. We're really glad to have him. Would you please give a huge Material Issues welcome to Mr. Moe Berg?
And there he is, Moe Berg in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome to Material Issues. A big fan of Pursuit of Happiness, and this Trans-Canada Highwaymen is a great fun album. I've been listening to it for the last 2 days, and really
it's
well
so
done.
Much fun. And a lot of people in the States aren't going to know many of the songs you covered. I can tell you right off the bat a few of them that, like Loving You Ain't. Well, if you're a power pop fan, you'll know that, but it wasn't a hit here. Tonight Is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love was not a hit here. Pretty Lady was barely a hit here, which is absolutely criminal. Let's see what else. Make My Life a Little Bit Brighter. You know where I first heard that? When I first went to Vancouver in 1990, I went to a record store called the Beatles Museum, and they had a copy of the single there. And I looked at the name of the band and the name of the song, and I thought, this is probably pop. And they let me play it, and it's like, wow, this is awesome. So I bought it. So I knew it. But yeah, most of these songs maybe about half of them were not like You, Me, in Mexico. The only thing we know in the States is Last Song. And then I found out that You, Me, in Mexico is number 3 on the Chum charts. So it was a huge hit for you guys. And Heartbeat is a Love Beat, which was a big hit here, but Guilty Pleasure, if there's such a thing, one of my favorite songs of all time. So thank you so much for doing this album.
Oh, it was a lot of fun to do. It was a blast.
What was your selection? Not to get right into the brand new thing, but it's brand new. How did the selection process come about for these tracks? Were you guys sitting around saying, I dig this thing. How about this? And everybody, yeah, oh, not.
It was, well, the genesis of the band was there's a guy, he's a theatrical director and producer. His name is Jim Milan. And he had this idea for a production. He's done like a lot of things like the Mythbusters and Alton Brown, and he worked on that Spider-Man thing and with U2. And so he had this idea for get a bunch of guys, Canadian artists from a certain vintage, like are in the 90s kind of thing, and sort of do a show, like almost like a theatrical show where we play songs and stuff. And it turned into a band. So we are a band where we don't just sit on stools and talk and tell and play stories. We are a band. We all play drums. We all play bass. We all play guitar. We all sing our own songs. And so everybody in the band picks their 4 biggest hits. So Sloan, Chris plays his 4 biggest hits with Sloan, and Steven plays his 4 biggest hits. And we all play our, I play I'm an Adult Now and She's So Young and Hard to Laugh and Two Girls in One. And so everybody in the audience knows all the songs, which is kind of a fun thing. Awesome. So we had this band and we were playing some shows and stuff. And then, COVID happened and it kind of slowed us down. And during COVID, we started putting together these little videos of us playing songs. And then we had this idea, why don't we make a record of like Canadian covers and make it like a K-Tel record? Are you guys familiar with K-Tel records?
Oh, gosh,
very well, very much so.
Yeah. So anyway, so we thought, okay, well, the K-Tel records were really big in the 70s. So let's keep our song list to the 70s and we'll make it. And so Chris from Sloan, he did all the artwork. He art directed the whole thing. So you buy the record and it looks like, I got it here just a sec.
Oh, so it's classic.
It looks like a K-Tel record.
Yeah,
so that's what
beautiful.
It looks like.
When I get to Toronto, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna buy it from James's store because I bet they have it.
Right. So anyway, so that was the shtick, and so we thought, well, we wanted to have something, on Spotify and Apple Music and something we could kind of sell that was ours. And so that's what we did. And so we recorded the record in our own home studios and passed files around. Like Steven's out in Syracuse and Craig is out in Vancouver and me and Chris are in Toronto. And so we just kind of recorded in our home studios, passed files around, and then Craig mixed it and we made a record during the pandemic. And so we're just releasing it now. And Chris also directed a 17-minute infomercial. Like, the old infomercials, like Time Life presents psychedelic songs of the 80s, 70s or something like that. So it's like that. It's hilarious. And we just
where can we see that, Mo?
I'll send you a link to it. And you can see it. I think it's on YouTube. There's a link to YouTube on it. And you can probably just Google it or on YouTube and you can probably find it. So it's really funny. And so that's the thing. And it's kind of an excuse for us to go out and play. But when people come to see us play, expect to hear Sloan songs, expect to hear Odd songs, Pursuit of Happiness songs, Steven's songs from the Bare Naked Ladies, and then a few of these sort of gems that we found from the 70s.
And what was the process to pick some of this stuff from the 70s? Were these just favorites of each of your guys? You said, no one's done this as a cover for forever, and let's
I think a lot of them were just songs that were on the radio. We tried to make sure that they weren't too obscure. We wanted to make sure they'd actually been singles, at least here in Canada. And so we found, everybody kind of picked their own songs to some degree. I think Chris kind of A&R'd it a bit and made sure that no one picked anything that was too weird. And so it was kind of like that. And everyone just sort of found a song that they thought they'd be able to sing. A lot of times when you were picking a cover, you make sure you get something you could actually do. Don't do something that's outside of your abilities. And so, someone like Steven, who's a really great singer, he could pick songs like Undone by the Guess Who, which is, kind of a tricky song. He even learned how to play the flute part. It's pretty outstanding. Yeah.
was probably the hardest rockin' version of Heartbeat It's a Love Beat I've ever heard, you know.
Well, yeah, I guess one of the things that we did was we didn't try to make exact replicas of those songs,
Yeah.
so we put our own little stamp on the songs, and you know, it doesn't sound like a record from the 60s. It sounds like a record that would be released today, you know, sonically. So you know, it has a little bit of relevance to, you know, today's music, but it's still paying homage to these songs from the 70s.
Yeah, your version of Raised on Robbery is definitely that way. It's very different, very rocking.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it was going to be pretty hard to sort of replicate Joni's version of that song, so we just thought, well, we'll play it the way that we would play it if it was our song.
Yeah, it's.
But yeah, picking make my life a little bit brighter is awesome, because I really want people in the States to know that song. Yeah, I don't even know if it was released as a single here. I mean, it certainly didn't chart.
Right.
But it's just one of those pop songs that just so hooky, and you know, you just never forget it. One thing you didn't do with the album, though, you didn't make it quite like a K-Tel, because there aren't any edits. If you remember, that's why K-Tel was able to put 22 explosive hits on their albums, because they edited each song like 10 or 15 seconds.
Right.
I remember when I first heard Heartbeat It's a Love Beat on one of the K-Tel albums, like, what the hell? Where's the temperature is rising part? You know, and it's funny because this is very apropos, because the first time I ever heard Pretty Lady was on a K-Tel album that I bought at my high school in New York for 25 cents. And I said, wait a minute, Lighthouse? I think I know that band. Let me play this song. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, it all comes full circle about 40 years later.
Right. Yeah, Lighthouse they had some stuff that was a little bit more kind of corny, and then they had some stuff that was really, really good. There's another song of theirs called Little Kind Words. It's kind of almost like a Baroque kind of thing. It almost sounds like something that the Left Bank would have done or something like that. And it's a very cool song as well.
Which album is that on? Do you remember?
I have it on a greatest hits of theirs. I have a greatest hits that's just wall to wall great stuff. So but I don't know what actual record it came out.
I'll have to find that one. Yeah. Anyway,
we had a comment, and you replied quickly about the Sadies, saying amazing legendary band. Somebody was checking in because they know the Sadies from up in that area, but yeah, great band. But let's get back to what we're talking about. I wanted to say
all right. You know, what we've all been waiting for, and I may have asked you this question when I actually met you I met you at when Shoes opened for The Pursuit of Happiness in LA at Club Lingerie back in '91. And I may have asked you at that time, did your parents name you specifically after the baseball playing Spy, or was it just purely coincidence?
Purely coincidence. So the story of my name, which is a crazy story actually, is I was when I was a kid, we didn't really have a lot of money. I had a pretty poor family, and my uncle lived around the corner from us, and so he used to cut our hair, and so I went to get my hair cut, and he should not have been near a pair of scissors. No one should have let him have.
I see what's coming here, but okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, I come back from getting my hair cut, and there was a sort of a little playground with a sandbox and some monkey bars and stuff in across the street from our house. And so he gave me like a bowl cut, just like a bowl cut. And so I was sitting in the sandbox with some of my friends and people in the neighborhood. My older sister Ann came home, and she walks over to the sandbox, and she looks at me and she goes, "You look like Moe." And what she meant was Moe Howard from the Three Stooges.
Right.
And from that moment on, I was Moe. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And so it just stuck for some reason.
So what was your birth name?
Yeah, you just look like Moe. And everybody called me Moe from that moment on.
What was your birth name, if I may ask?
Murray.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which would not have been as cool.
Well, when did you find out about the baseball playing Spy, Moe Berg?
Much later. I remember hearing about him, and then getting the book, and and there was a couple of books. There's been a couple of books written about him. There was one earlier, and then there's the really famous one that came out about 15-20 years ago. So yeah, I found out about him probably about 25 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, there's a movie recently about him with Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I know I've been meaning to see that. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I definitely
No,
read both books.
somebody asked if you prefer Some Sing Some Dance or Lovin' You Ain't Easy.
There you go.
Honestly, I like Some Sing Some Dance better. Personally, that's my personal choice. Loving You Easy is a great song, and Chris does an amazing version of it.
He does.
And it was the first cover we ever learned as a band. We actually played that as an encore before we even started doing this record. So yeah, it's a song that everybody in the band likes. But my favorite Pagliaro song of all time is Some Sing Some Dance. It's
I mean, I have to say I like the verses of Some Sing Some Dance a lot. The chorus, I don't know, kind of sounds like he's trying to be country western or something, and it doesn't quite fit. That's for me.
Right.
Loving You Ain't Easy is just Loving You Ain't Easy is just pure power pop all the way. In fact, one of the early, and I've seen, I don't know if I should reveal this, but I've seen a rough cut of the first 20 minutes of the power pop movie, and with you in it, and yeah, Loving You Ain't Easy was definitely one of the first power pop songs, even though nobody called it that at that point, but it really was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he had a lot of great songs. Another songs like "Don't Know What the Hell I Got" is another really killer track of his. Yeah, he was great. He had a kind of he made a record once. It was kind of like almost like a Springsteen-esque record called Time Race. And if you hear the song Time Race, you can really hear it's a great pop song as well, but it really has that sort of Springsteen feeling to it.
Yeah, definitely. So you grew up in Edmonton, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Who were some of the bands when you were a kid that influenced you?
Well, so when I was growing up as a kid, I loved the Beatles and the Beach Boys, the Who, like all the British invasion bands, and so that, I mean, the Beach Boys are really where I got my sort of ideas for harmony and stuff like that. Same with the Beatles, because the Beatles had harmonies on every single song. And so that was a really that was my stuff. But I listened to the radio. That's what I did. I listened to the radio all day long. And like I said, we were poor. I couldn't buy a lot of records. So I listened to the radio, and whatever was on the radio was the stuff that kind of influenced me. And, at a certain point, as I got older, that's when, when I was a kind of a very impressionable teenager, that's when punk rock happened. And so I got very into that kind of music. And my first real band was called The Modern Minds. And we were sort of like a punk / new wave band. And so that we were sort of one of the OGs of that scene in Edmonton. So that we were sort of one of the first bands to really go in that direction. But we were more like the Buzzcocks. I don't know if you're familiar with that band. We had a lot more of a pop sensibility to us than maybe, some of the more sort of darker hardcore kind of bands. And so that was our sound, was more the sort of, we played really fast and really aggressively, but there was always melody and there was always like cool chords and stuff like that. That was our vibe. And so we released a single, and basically sold a little bit locally. Nothing, didn't set the world on fire. But the interesting thing about it was it got cataloged in a Canadian punk catalog of records called Smash the State. And so I just kept, I would get an email every once in a while saying, do you have a copy of that single? I'd like to buy it. And then we get lots of them from Japan. And so eventually a company from there, which you guys are probably familiar with, called Bass Records, who put out like the Pointed Sticks record and stuff like. So they said, can you assemble a record? We want to put out a CD of The Modern Minds. And so I did. I found a bunch of demos and radio show songs we'd done, and I was put together 10-12 songs, and they released it. And then not long ago, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, there's a guy here in Toronto who has a label who does like a lot of reissues of punk records called Ugly Pop Records, and he released this. So that it had this funny life. It's this sort of like this, it came out so long ago, but it's had this interesting life. So that was my thing. And then I started to really get into, like, after I was after punk rock, I sort of got it really into, like, because I was really into like the New York Dolls and Iggy Pop and Lou Reed and Quadrophenia area, the Who, and that kind of era, the Who and stuff like that. And then I really got into things like Todd Rundgren and the Raspberries and Badfinger, and that was all pretty much in my DNA from listening to so much Beatles and Beach Boys and Who and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm a real sort of like a mongrel of all these sort of musical styles that have sort of shaped me. And, even listening to things like Van Halen, and even listening to things like, like Grandmaster Flash and stuff like that, because that was really what made me feel like, hey, you could just talk in a song instead of, and that's what made I'm an Adult Now happen. Yeah. Because I listening to all the early hip hop tracks made me realize I don't even have to sing. I could just talk. And so I had a bunch of songs like that, but I'm an Adult Now was kind of the only one that ever made it into a record. And so, I listened to a lot of musical styles, and, got into like the Replacements, and Joe Jackson was another big influence for me. The early records, those first couple of records, very cool, sort of, punk influenced power pop records. And the Ramones to me are a power pop band as much as they are a punk band. And again, that was a big influence on me as well.
And of course, the poster behind you, Kiss.
Yes, of course.
They're not power pop. Please don't say
they're not. But a lot of poppy influences in them. I mean, face it, they listen to the same music that we all listen to when they were growing up. So
no, we just have. There's just a thing with David and Kiss, with people calling them power pop, and he is adamant that they are not. But we just have a running joke. Gene
Simmons is an avowed Raspberries fan, but I don't. And I can hear it in some of their songs, but just the way Paul Stanley sings them, plus the lyrics, just not power pop to me. But
no, I hear you. I hear you. Have you ever heard the song "Hold Me, Touch Me" off Paul's solo record?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That sounds like a Raspberry song.
Stuff on the solo albums. Yeah. That is by Gene Simmons. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So agree.
Hold Me, Touch Me. That is as power pop as you can get. Yeah. But no, I wouldn't call Kiss a power pop band. I wouldn't.
Have you heard Paul Stanley's latest album where he does half covers of soul songs from the 70s and half originals?
I've heard about it, but I have not heard it.
It is brilliant.
Yeah, it's actually
that is the music he was meant to do. I totally recommend that you check it out on Spotify or something, because
it's really good.
He is wonderful at that.
It's actually very surprising.
And he could write, and half the songs are written by him in that style, and they could have been hits back in the 70s. So really good stuff. Who are some of the Canadian bands that you looked up to? Were there any local Edmonton bands that you aspired to be?
Well, not really. Edmonton was a funny place. It was, most of the bands there were cover bands, and there wasn't a lot of bands playing their own songs. We were kind of one of the first bands that would sort of play a lot of their own songs, and a lot of bands that came around the same time as us did that. It's a band called Junior Gone Wild, and one called Jerry and the Sons of Free Rhythm Orchestra and stuff. And so we were sort of like that first generation of bands in Edmonton that were sort of performing their own material. And there'd been a few bands that had did a little bit of that, but there wasn't a club scene in Edmonton. You couldn't open a club in Edmonton. The only place a band could play was at a hotel bar. So it was really tricky to even get a gig in Edmonton. And when I was in the sort of punk world, it was all kind of playing in these halls that had been rented and that kind of thing. So there wasn't a lot of bands to look up to. There was one band that was a cover band, and they were called High, H-A-I. And they were amazing. They were three brothers that could sing like crazy, and they did Go All the Way. And I remember just thinking, oh my God, I've never heard a band do Go All the Way that actually sounded good. So they did, and they did like Magneto and Titanium Man, and they did all these sort of like really great power pop songs. And so I looked up to them, but they were just a cover band. They didn't play their own music. So that was as close as I got. So that's when I knew I had to leave Edmonton, and there was no future for me there. And that's why I hightailed it up to Toronto.
What year was that?
That would have been 1986. I moved out to Toronto, and that's where I put together The Pursuit of Happiness. And
Wow.
And you, unlike many bands of that ilk, you recruited some female singers. What made you want to do that?
Well, I had very specific ideas of how I wanted the harmonies to go. Again, very influenced by the bands, Raspberries, Badfinger, Todd Rundgren, where these rich vocal harmonies, Beach Boys, the Beatles. And so I just never really found a lot of guys that I thought could really sing that great. And this is one of my big laments. It's like when you think about music in the 60s, you think about the bands in the 60s, almost every guy in the band could sing.
Yeah.
Like all the music in the 60s had these beautiful harmonies. And then we got into the 70s, and then the guitar became the more important instrument in the 70s after, like Jimi Hendrix and people like that. And there might have there was almost sometimes no harmonies, Led Zeppelin, you wouldn't hear a lot of harmonies, and so people just stopped singing. People stopped learning how to sing. And so I think a whole generation of guys never bothered to sing, but you didn't even have been in show business if you didn't know how to sing back in the 50s and 60s.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's just been we sort of lost the whole generation. And then, so when I was looking, I thought, well, I know women can sing these nice high harmony parts that I had written in my songs, and I knew that could happen. So I just kind of gravitated to that. And then I also thought it created a kind of a cool aesthetic in the band, like to have like a mixed genre I'm not mixed genre, mixed, like having women and men in a band. I'm trying to think of the word I need. Anyway, and so
mixed sexuality. Yeah.
Yeah. So because that wasn't really a thing. You didn't really see much of that.
Yeah.
And so I thought this gives the band kind of a cool look as well. So but it was largely mainly because I just needed someone who could sing really good harmonies, and I only really could find women who could do that.
That's very cool.
I think I told you when I met you, you probably forgot about it, but there was a UK band called the Masonettes who put out an album in 1984. And they're the only other band I can think of that utilizes female harmonies the way you guys did. They were before you, but they had a hit in the UK called Heartache Avenue. If you listen to that song, especially in the bridge, you can hear a very similar usage. Just a wonderful, wonderful band, and it just made me wish that when I heard you and them, it just made me wish that more people did that. But
Right.
They didn't. But anyway, check them out. On Spotify, there's a best of Masonettes, which has the whole album plus some singles. It's Maison.
I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah, Maison, like maison, house, Ettes. I guess that means a small house or
Maisonette.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
One of the main, I don't know if you know the band City Boy from the late 70s, but
of course, yeah.
Oh, well, Lal Mason from City Boy. That was his band after City Boy. So,
okay.
Anyway, cool. There you go.
I'll check that out.
So how does
honestly, I've never heard of them.
Yeah, you should. How does the Pursuit of Happiness come about?
So when I moved to Toronto, I had a Dave Gilby, who plays drums in Pursuit of Happiness. He was playing with me in bands back in Edmonton, and he moved the same time. We didn't necessarily have plans to get a band together, but eventually we did. And then we just started trying to look for people in Toronto. Like, everybody's a musician and everyone's in a band. It's kind of like moving to New York or Los Angeles, And there's lots of opportunities to play. There's lots of clubs, lots of opportunities for a band, which was completely different from where it was in Edmonton, where you had to really grind it out to even just get one gig. I remember coming to visit Toronto before I moved out and opening up. There's a weekly there called Now magazine. And I remember opening up and looking at, and it was like, there was 13, 14 gigs that night. And I said, there might be only 13, 14 gigs in a whole year.
Wow.
In Edmonton. There's 13, 14 gigs tonight. And so I was like, this is the place I need to be. And so anyway, it's fun. And Johnny Sinclair, who was the original bass player for our band, he was a guy I'd met out in Saskatoon, which is not, it's far, but it's basically in Western Canada. And my old band, the Modern Minds, had played there, and he knew me from there. And he just kind of cold called me one day and said, I heard you were in town, and let's get together and have a drink. And we sort of became friends. And then he left his band to come with us. And then Dave, our drummer, had known these two women, Tam and Tasha Mobile, sisters, from Winnipeg, where he was originally from. So it was all these Western Canadians that had displaced themselves and came to Toronto. And so we all started this band, and we started the band together. And eventually Tam and Tosh went to start their own band. And that's when we got Chris and Leslie. And that was the band that recorded Love Junk.
Yeah.
And how did you get your deal with Chrysalis? We always want to know how did bands make that happen?
Well, what happened was when we were trying to get shows in Toronto, we made back in the day, you'd make a demo tape that you could pass around to club owners so that they could, check you out and see if you were worth booking. And so we had a friend of ours, a guy that we knew. His name was Scott DeSmit, and he had a little studio in his basement, a little 16-track studio. So we went into his basement, and me and Dave and Johnny, and we kind of we recorded like 4 songs, and then we got Tam and Tosh to come in and sing the harmonies, and then we just had this demo tape, and it had 4 songs on it. And we so used it to try and get gigs. And there, I had a friend who was a film director here in Toronto, and we were just kind of sitting around, and we listened to the demo tape, and he's like, "Hey, we should do a video." And this is in the early days of video. This was not, much music here in Canada had just launched, and MTV wasn't really that old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like 1986. So anyway, so we thought, he had a friend who had a camera, and it was like, I got a friend who can do this. I got a friend who can this. So we just kind of wandered around the streets of Toronto and shot footage and we sort of listened to the demo tape, and we said, I think that song, I'm an Adult Now, would make the best video. Like completely clueless. We didn't think this is our big hit. This is the one. We just thought this one will make the best video.
Right.
So anyway, so we did this, and we handed it into Much Music, and thinking that they had Much Music had a show that was like 120 minutes that you would be more familiar with in America. It was called City Limits. And so we thought, oh, maybe they'll play it on City Limits, and wouldn't that be a cool thing to see our video? Because we did the video for like $0.
Yeah.
And so anyway, a couple of days later, they called me and they said, we're putting this into rotation.
Oh, Lord.
Which completely blew our minds. So anyway, so it did, and it created a bit of a sensation in Canada. And so and then we go into a record store, and people say, and the people that worked at the store say, "Where's your record?" People have been coming in here all day asking for "I'm an Adult Now." I was like, well, I don't know, we don't have a record. So we pressed our own record. We got a friend to design a record, and we just kind of quickly put it together, and it sold out. Like, I think we pressed 1,000 copies, and it sold out in like a week or two.
Oh my
and then
God.
So then we got a guy who ran a record store / label here. It was called The Record Peddler. He said, "Look, I'll take this over for you. Obviously you can't do this." So he took it over, and he did it for a while. And then Warner Brothers, back when they were still a label, he said, "Okay, we got this. We'll take over this." And so they took it over. And then Warner Brothers Los Angeles contacted us and said, we're interested in you guys. And then we got a manager, this guy named Jeff Rogers, who also eventually managed the Crash Test Dummies and other people. Mm-hmm. And so we went to New York and Los Angeles and had meetings with a bunch of people, and based on the success of I'm an Adult Now, the indie thing that we had done. And eventually we signed a publishing deal with EMI Publishing. And so they were starting to help us, try and get a record deal. And they contacted Chrysalis. There was a guy at EMI Publishing named Danny Keaton, who was good friends with a woman named Kate Hyman. And Kate Hyman was A&R at Chrysalis. And so he said, you should really check these guys out. So she flew to this town that you may or may not be aware of. It's called Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is in the middle of Canada. It's a place that's like 40 below in the middle of the summer. Right. I mean, unfortunately, I live in Toronto, and Toronto's weather is basically New York's weather. It's super insane, hot, humid in the summer, and then in the winter it's kind of temperate. It's not too bad.
Right.
But Winnipeg is insane. And so she flew out there, and it was like we were playing in this just terrible bar, and it was again one of these horrifically cold days in the winter. And she flew from New York to see us play, and it wasn't a good bar, and I don't think it was particularly well attended. And she saw the band play, and then she said, "Come back to my hotel." We went back to her hotel, and we were trashed, and we just acted like a bunch of animals in her hotel. And it's like, there's no way. She must just hate our guts at this point. And she signed the band.
Wow. Unbelievable. Yeah. See, unbelievable.
And she was amazing. She couldn't have been a more amazing A&R person. She was so generous and so hands off. She got us Todd Rundgren to produce a record, and then she said, "Okay, go ahead, guys, do your thing." She'd come to the studio, she'd listen to what we were doing, and buy us a newspaper, buy us some booze, and she was just the most wonderful person. And I'm not saying she did nothing. She did a lot. She did tons, but she was very, very enabling, I guess would be the best word. She enabled that whole process to happen. And
what's the reaction?
Can ask for anything more than being enabled that way. That's
we owe her a lot. That's for sure.
So what is your reaction when they were like, "Well, we're thinking Todd Rundgren to produce you"?
Well, I suggested Todd Rundgren, thinking there's no chance that would ever happen. because he was my favorite producer, my favorite artist, and I just
Let's
thought,
just
well,
throw Todd Rundgren's name out
yeah,
there.
let's take our fishing line and go right into the ocean with it.
Why not?
And
oh, Lord.
and then I'm in. I mean, I've told this story a million times, but we were back in Winnipeg, a very monumental city for us. And so I was there, and we were doing a show, and someone comes up to me at soundcheck and says, "There's a phone call for you." And so I pick up the phone and I go, "Hello," and he goes, "Hey, Mo, it's Todd Rundgren." Imagine how'd you feel if that happened to you, all right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, we have a little conversation. And he said, "Well, your record company sent the demos over, and I'd be interested in working with you guys. You better do something about that guitar player, though. He's not very good."
He's
and
talking
I said, "I'm the guitar player." He said, "You need to really work on it a bit." And so that was the beginning of our relationship. That was the beginning of our relationship. Yes.
How was it working with him?
How
was it working with him on the two
albums? It was amazing. It was amazing. What was great was he came to see us play in Toronto, and we stayed up all night talking. Like literally all night. He had a 7 a.m. flight back to Sausalito, where he was living at the time. And so we stayed up until he had to go catch his flight. And I got all my fan questions out, like everything I ever wanted to ask him, I'd ask him. So then when we got to Lake Hill, and we did the record with him at his studio, I'd kind of gotten all that out of my system. And so we just kind of got to work, and he's very fast, very efficient, very vibey. Consciousness raising as a social tool was done in one take.
Wow.
And like live off the floor, one take, no click track. And so he was that guy. He's like very much knew what he wanted. And as soon as he got what he wanted, let's move on to the next thing. So he wasn't one of those guys that wrings his hand like me as a producer, who sits there and agonizes over everything. And so I think that really worked. It really worked well for us on that first record.
Which is interesting, because when we talked to Dave Gregory at XTC on the show here, they talk about their experience with Todd Rundgren, whereas you talk about, he's very, organic. It is what it is. It was good right there. We're done. Let's move on. But you can imagine the guys from XTC who wanted to overdo everything and get into the particulars and take all the time in the world. And you can see where that's why they butted heads.
Well, yeah, it seems like lots of artists were at loggerheads with Todd. So it's nice to hear that you have just nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah, I mean, Todd's an acquired taste. I mean, he's a very brilliant man.
Yeah.
Very brilliant man, and he's good at what he does, but he can get bored very easily with your petty little whatever. I mean, and so I can see how some people would have a difficulty with him, but I didn't. Every suggestion he made, everything he did was just like, wow, this is great. Like,
was there one track on the first album that he really put his Rundgren stamp on that you can think of, or changed things up a bit and said this has got to go this direction for the better?
I think one of the things he did was he paid attention to like songs like "She's So Young," where he brought in different amplifiers and stuff like that, and said we need to sort of like we need to color this in a certain way that's maybe different from the other songs on the record. And he did that with When the Sky Comes Falling Down as well. And so, yeah, I mean, but I think Todd, when he saw us live, he said, I think I get what you guys are doing. So let's capture that. Let's just try and capture what you're doing live and get a sense of immediacy on the tape. And again, and very amazing at recording harmony vocals, really did an amazing job on that. And yeah, he just a very vibey kind of guy. And really, I just, I have a lot of respect for people who know what they want, who sort of, I know what I want, I'm going to get it, and don't sort of like wring their hands all the time trying to figure out what's going on in the studio. Yeah.
Did Todd influence, because most of the bands you mentioned were very earnest and or at least appeared to be very earnest in their songwriting with lyrics that were generally pretty serious. And then you come around, and on the first album, there are a lot of songs where the lyrics are really clever and cheeky. Did Todd Rundgren, because Todd Rundgren is one person who comes to mind as somebody who wrote like that occasionally. Did he influence your lyric writing in any way?
Sure. Well, that was the other thing about working with Todd, was some people sort of like say that Todd puts his stamp on on their productions a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But the stamp came already pre-stamped. We were already pre-stamped before we even met him. So because I was so influenced by him, I don't think he needed to do any of that. Any of the Todd influences that you hear on our records were there before Todd ever entered the picture.
Yeah, you were already in his ballpark.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you said you got your fanboy stuff out of the way. It's great to hear that he responded well to that. I always had the image, like, if you came up to him like a fanboy, you'd say, like, get the hell away from me, but no.
He comes off as a bit of a curmudgeon, but he's a wonderful man. Like, he's a great guy, when he comes to Toronto, I always try and meet up with him, and he's very gracious about that. And it's just the opportunity to perform with him on his record on White Night, that we wrote the song together, that was like a dream come true.
Oh, wow.
I can't, something that, when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, first getting into his music, I guess I was around 16, 17 years old when I got his music, to think that one day you'd be writing a song with Todd Rundgren. That's crazy.
Unimaginable.
Yeah, unimaginable. Yeah.
Still probably feels surreal, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when it happened, because I was actually in Niagara Falls, then on the Canadian side. I was there with my wife and my kids, and we were in an arcade, and my kids were playing arcade games, and my phone kind of vibrated in my pocket, and I sort of looked at it, and it's like, I say, "Hey Mo, it's Todd." It's like, I'm putting out a record of collaborations, and would you write a song with me, pretty please, XOXOXO? And I just looked at it, and I just put it back in my pocket. And then I picked it up, and I looked at it again, and I showed it to my wife, and my wife like just freaked out.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, I was like, I don't know what to think right now. I don't even know what to even say. I'm like kind of in a bit of a state of shock. And so,
there's no pressure there, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
It's like, whoa. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, right out of the gates, that's an incredible story. David and I interview so many artists and bands from the 60s and how they get their record deal, which is basically you walk into a major label and you say, can you sign us? And stuff like that actually happened. And then they're produced by people that just blow their minds. I mean, you still had that going on basically in 87, 88. And that still happened. It's hard for that to be imaginable today in this world. But you were there at a great time, and did a really great thing. And as David said, the lyrics on a lot of the tracks of that first album just kill me. I call it Canadian sense of humor. I've got a lot of Canadian friends up in Toronto area with Jamie Vernon at Bullseye, and all the guys from Klaatu and the Killer Dwarves and whatnot. They just all have this crazy sensibility and twist with lyrics, and I love it. It just absolutely gets me every time. And well done, my friend.
And so it feels so effortless. Like, Canadians have this image of being very laid back, and for the most part, it's true.
Yeah.
So it always feels, your sense of humor the Canadian sense of humor feels very, very effortless, and very organic. So I appreciate. I don't listen to lyrics much, but cheeky lyrics always seem to get through to me, like 10cc or Sparks or The Pursuit of Happiness. Right. So I appreciate it. So you had the first two albums, you've got Todd producing, you've got the female backing singers, and then they leave to form Universal Honey, a band I really love, by the way.
Yeah. Well, John, their bass player and one of the singers left. Chris stayed with the band. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, but it seemed to change your sound a bit. Maybe Todd leaving as well, I don't know, but the Downward Road and Where's the Bone seem a little bit more harder edged. Was that a conscious decision, or is that just where your writing went?
Well, the Downward Road is definitely a harder record. We did that record with a guy named Ed Stasium.
Yeah.
Ed Stasium had produced like the Ramones and Living Color and the Smithereens, and bands like that. So he was a little bit more of a rock guy, I guess, than maybe Todd Rundgren was. And so the you know, the big drums and the sort of heavier guitars, that was a lot of that was him. But you know, the time that I was writing that record, I was revisiting a lot of my punk records and like Bad Brains and stuff like that. So I was listening to a lot of hard music at the time when I was writing that record. So it was a bit of that. But Where's the Bone was different because I was really working on songs and trying to write different kinds of songs, and we really toned down all the distortion and stuff like that. Most of the guitars on Where's the Bone are very clean sounding, a lot less heavy sounding kind of stuff, and it was really trying to be more of a song kind of album. And so and then when we did the last record we did, which was Wonderful World of, that was supposed to be that went really in a super power pop kind of direction. It was much more like a Jellyfish kind of inspired record,
and that's why it's my favorite.
It's and it's being re-released on vinyl early next year.
Oh, nice.
Someone just approached us and said, I want to re-release that on vinyl, and so that's going to be a fun thing, because it's a record to me that's kind of been forgotten. It's just, it didn't really do much for us, and it just feels like it disappeared. And so we have it up on our Spotify and our Apple Music now, and I think this vinyl reissue is really going to be a cool thing, and I'm very happy that it's going to happen.
Wait, so there's an original vinyl? It did come out on vinyl?
It never came out on vinyl.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
I will be all over that.
It's great that it's going to finally have a vinyl release, and I think we're going to try and re-release. We're going to release Where's the Bone on vinyl too eventually as well.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, for anyone listening, if you're a pop fan, and I'm sure you are, if you're listening, check out The Wonderful World of the Pursuit of Happiness. I mean, really, it is a wonderful world of music. Absolutely.
It's great. So what's going on now in Moe Berg's life? What keeps you busy musically? Besides the Trans-Canada Highwaymen, we talked briefly about that, but let's get into some other things that you're doing.
So the record, the Trans-Canada record that just came out, Explosive Hits. So that's kind of a little bit of my preoccupation at the moment. We've been doing a lot of press and we're going to do a bunch of shows. We're going to do some touring. We'll probably even do a few American dates. And then the Pursuit of Happiness has just recorded a bunch of our old songs acoustically.
Really?
And we went into the studio and recorded those. So we're going to release those as well, probably in the new year. And then, like I said, the Wonderful World is going to come out on vinyl. And so, there's always a little something. And I'm producing James's new record is going to come out, and I think it's out, and I think he's going to have an official release in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I know that I saw the vinyl and I have a copy of the CD. So that record is amazing. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that yet.
I have not yet.
I'll be getting one when I see him.
It's his best record yet. It's a great record. And James is such an awesome songwriter. Just in another universe, he would be, one of the most celebrated songwriters in the planet.
No doubt.
And so that record's coming out soon, and I'm working on another record with another band here. And not far from here in a place called London, Ontario. So I'm starting doing
which
that.
Band, Mo?
They're called the Farewell Stanleys.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm going to start that record next week. And so there's lots going on.
And you did write at least one book in your life, right?
Yeah, I wrote a book called The Green Room, which was a book of short stories that came out many years ago now. But that's still something you could find if you looked hard enough. I think we sell it in our Pursuit of Happiness store. So or you could buy it on eBay for some crazy inflated price, which I discourage you from doing. You can get it for a lot cheaper from our Pursuit of Happiness store.
Is the book? I admit I haven't read it. Is it music related in any way?
Not at all.
Not at all.
It's just a bunch of crazy stories about crazy people. Yeah, it's very similar to my lyrics, I guess.
I found the YouTube link to the KTEL inspired Trans-Canada Highwaymen. It's right there on the
infomercial.
The infomercial.
Honestly, I can say this because I had very little to do with it. I am just in it. but it is amazing. Like, it's so funny. If you ever grew up in that era where you see infomercials, you are going to be beside yourself laughing at this thing. Okay.
I didn't actually watch it. I just found the link to tell people it is out there on
I
YouTube.
highly recommend it. And this is all Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy designed the whole thing. He made this happen. Who must be you guys all must be a fan of Sloan.
Very much.
Oh,
so.
yeah, very much so.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, 12 was my favorite album of, I forgot, it's 2019, I think. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're really busy and doing well. I mean, I'm looking forward to Trans-Canada Highwaymen coming down to the States. I hope you come to the New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia area. I would love to catch you guys doing all the great hits of each individual, but also some of these great covers. What a great show!
Los Angeles too. We would love. Yeah. I would love that.
Yeah, don't end up in Madison, Wisconsin. We can't get there or something like that.
Right. I remember the Pursuit of Happiness playing in Madison and having an amazing show there.
Did Pursuit of Happiness ever go overseas?
We played England a bunch of times. We played all through Europe, opening for the Eurythmics.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yeah, so we did like a 6-week tour. We played everywhere, like every city in Western Europe.
Did you ever play the Cavern Club?
We did not play the Cavern Club. We played the Marquee in London twice. Marquee. We played the Town and Country there. So yeah, well, it's funny. I have a friend who just came, who's from London, who writes for, like, you know, he used to. First time I met him, he was writing for Kerrang magazine, and then he writes for Classic Rock magazine, and he writes for the Times there, and he's a novelist, and he was reminding me of all the shows we played out in England. So yeah, it's great.
As you may know, I bring the International Pop Overthrow Festival to the Cavern Club every year. James,
I know James has played there,
a couple of times. Yeah. Anytime, if the Pursuit of Happiness ever want to play the Cavern Club, or just anything you're doing beyond that, let me know. So it's late May or into early June. So anytime.
It's a great time. It is a great time.
And it's an amazing venue to play.
Right.
No doubt about that. It really is.
Have you heard the new Beatles Now and Then, Mo?
I heard it earlier today. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's your thoughts on
it? It's a lovely song. It's a very lovely, touching song. I mean, I guess I wanted to like it. So
I think that the build up of the final Beatles song and the Beatles song and how they made it. When I listened to it, I kind of heard it more as a John Lennon song.
Absolutely. 100%.
Sure.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
I mean, Paul did his thing, and Ringo played great drums on it, and whatever, they kind of slid George in there with some stuff. But to me, it really was a John song, that had really good backing musicians.
Yeah, but I mean, I could think about it as one of John's songs on, like, Let It Be or Abbey Road or something.
I was trying to do that, actually. Like,
I just didn't get that feeling. To me, it was more,
all three of those songs, all three of those, post Beatles songs that have been credited to the Beatles, the production, just
Johnny.
The production is certainly not anything that would have existed when the Beatles were still together. So
sure. Yeah.
Sometimes it makes it hard to really see them as Beatles songs, but especially Now and Then, I see as a John Lennon song, and also that vocal of his, he almost never sang that in that high a register. It was really interesting.
Right.
Yeah, it was a beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about how it came together, but I mean, it's fun. You have to love it. Like, you have to love that. There's still some.
Oh yeah.
How exhausting, the Beatles catalog has become, like, finding all these extra, the anthology records and all these re-releases, to still be able to find some new thing there. I mean, it's fun. If you're a Beatles fan, it's fun. I mean, seeing that Get Back thing just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was so exciting. I loved it so much.
And the technology, Peter Jacobson, is just amazing. The technology to be able to take a rough demo and separate the piano and separate the voice, and then be able to do things with it. Just amazing.
So
amazing.
What's your view of AI? How do you see that affecting the music business, good or bad?
Well, I mean, I'm sort of two minds about it, because I always feel like you should never fear technology. I mean, there's been a lot of technology that's in my lifetime that's changed music, you know, uh, digital music and synthesizers and sequencers and samplers and all these things changed music, and most of the time for the better. Like, the good things happen, and technology has made music great. And even just going from an acoustic guitar to electric guitar, look how great that turned out. And so it's but I mean the whole thing about artificial intelligence is like I think about people who do certain things that AI is going to do better than them. And so what's going to happen to those people? It's almost like beat makers, almost like AI is going to be able to make a beat better than you in probably about a year. And so what's going to happen to people like you? And so I worry about stuff like that.
Yes.
I guess my feeling is that AI is never going to be able to write a song like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. Like, that's a human being can only do that. Like, I don't think that AI can write Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's ever going to happen. But I guess we'll find the things, find out what the things that it can do to be helpful, and then you go from there. I guess that's all. Again, we shouldn't fear technology. We should figure out how we can make it work for us, I guess.
Well, certainly your producer, Todd Rundgren, he never feared technology. He always embraced it. So yeah,
of course, yeah, and it worked great for him. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, fantastic, Mo. Thanks so much for hanging out here with us on Material Issues.
Absolutely.
It's been
great to be here with you guys.
Yeah. To know you guys, and look forward to Trans Canada Highwaymen. What a wonderful project, and best of luck with it.
Or should we say project?
Project.
Project. Yeah.
Absolutely cool. I love the whole image of the K-Tel album, and I can't wait to watch the promo when we're off of here tonight. But anybody interested, make sure you check out the Facebook page and the Instagram page, Trans Canada Highwaymen, and anything Pursuit of Happiness. It's all out there to find. So
absolutely,
great stuff.
yeah.
Great stuff.
Pursuit of Happiness is on Facebook and Instagram too. So yeah, check us out and see what's going on with us.
And all the usual places, fantastic. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friend.
Yeah, and Mo, I'll be in Toronto from the 24th through 26th doing IPO, so I hope to see you.
Okay, great.
Fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Okay, take care, guys. Great to see you guys.
Have a wonderful evening, and best of luck to you. Stay happy, healthy, grateful, and thanks for being on Material Issues.
Thank you so much.
Great to be on here with you guys.
Take care. All right, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, fantastic. We're getting, I don't know if you, great show. Thank you. Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, fantastic. Somebody who hadn't heard them. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's really great. Now, as a big time fan, where, Pursuit of Happiness is one of those bands where, even with the power pop fans or friends, you talk about, some aren't that familiar with the work, and they need to be, and because the body of work is really great, and fantastic. I just really enjoyed that interview. Good stuff. And Trans Canada Highwaymen, that I listened to that whole thing. Just great coverage, great selection.
It's a fun album, and I again, it's going to introduce some songs that were only hits in Canada to a U.S. audience.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Lighthouse, as you are, and
Pretty Lady is classic. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. And then you have something like when Edward Bear came out. No one in the States had heard, not when they came out. When Last Song came out, I mean, nobody in the States had heard of them. My first thought was, I love the name, the whole Pooh thing, and Last Song was really great. And I had no idea at the time that they had already had a few albums and some big hits. It wasn't until I bought the Chum chart book, CHUM, the big Toronto station. Yeah. I bought that chart book in the late 70s, and I'm looking through it, and it's like, what the hell is You, Me, in Mexico? Number 3? What? I never even heard that. It wasn't a hit here, but it was huge in Canada, and that's one of the songs that's on the Transcontinental Highwaymen record. So, that, and again, make my life a little bit brighter. I don't know what Chester ever did beyond that. They never released an album, but but that song is just a really delightful pop song.
Yeah.
That was a hit over there. And you know, I don't even know if it was released as a single here. It certainly didn't chart. So yeah, it's going to open up if people in the States buy this. And there's enough stuff on the album that people will be familiar with, like Which Way You Goin', Billy, Rock Me Gently. I love that they did I Believe There's Nothing Stronger Than Our Love by Paul Anka. They didn't pick the they didn't pick the obvious, You're Having My Baby.
Right.
And of course, Heartbeat Is a Love Beat was a huge hit here. So yeah, it's a mixture of stuff that people know and won't know, and all, you know, all very. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope everybody checks it out. It's really good, and looking forward to a tour. I'd love to see
Yeah,
it
it'll be more likely that they'll make it down to you than out to LA. But
and we've got reissued Pursuit of Happiness vinyl.
Oh my God, the wonderful world of that album is so great.
It's gonna be great. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
So we've got some really cool guests coming up.
Yes, we
in
do.
The next few weeks, especially the next 2 weeks. We've got some power pop. We've got a power pop icon and a soft pop icons over the next few weeks, because on November 8th, we're back to Wednesday for the foreseeable future. On Wednesday, November 8th, we will have one of the main men of easily, I mean, certainly one of the best, if not the best power pop band ever. And that would be Shoes, and Jeff Murphy will be our guest on Material Issues. And who knows, he may be able to bring another shoe or a pair of shoes with him. We don't know, but at the very least, it'll be him. And,
it'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first saw Shoes in '91. Jeff was the guy who entertained everybody after the show. You know, he was sitting around answering questions, and you know, he's also a very laid back guy and had a very easy way of communicating with people. Yep. It felt really good. So I have a feeling this is going to be a fine interview.
It'll be a good one. Yeah.
Yep. And then on the 15th, Mark has brought a couple of people that I'm just amazed that he was able to get, but you can tell us about them.
Well, you want to talk about soft pop icons and great melodic pop from the 60s. One of the best, one of your favorites, one of my favorites. We've got two original members of the association going to join us on November 15th, Jules Alexander and Jim Yester.
That is just unbelievable.
They'll be here together joining us on November 15th. And I didn't even know Jim Yester lives about 40 minutes away from me down to the Jersey Shore. So
wow.
It's kind of cool to figure that out. But yeah, that's going to be great on the 15th. You want to talk about a catalog of hits and doing it really, really well as far as harmony is concerned. Doesn't get much better than the association.
Yeah. It doesn't. And you know, as I mentioned last time, everything that touches you.
One of the best. Yeah.
To me, there is no better vocal arrangement of any song in the history of music than that one.
Yeah, that's one of the best. Yeah. So yeah, it's great. And then on the 22nd, right now, currently it is not booked. However, we do have a couple serious irons in the fire that could turn out.
A couple? I know of one.
Well, we got one really serious iron.
Yeah, this would be.
There's one just. Well, I'm working on another one that's just under serious.
Yeah, if you could get the really serious iron, that's. Well, I'll just give you a hint. He would be the oldest guest that we would have on Material Issues, even older than my dad, who's 92 right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
an icon of his industry as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely a lot more famous than my dad. I'll say that.
But we can't solidify it until it's solidified. So right now the 22nd's open. If it's still open, we are going to play some Stump the Bash or You've Been Bashed with our friend Mr. John Borak.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Things like that. We'll have a lot of fun. So
and then
that going
on the 29th, we have a music attorney from LA, I believe, by the name of Erin Jacobson. And she's a good friend of my brother. She's done a lot of business with him. And she'll be really cool because she, as I said, she's a music attorney. She's had some pretty famous clients. but she's also, and this will resonate with every musician on here listening. She's also written a book called "Don't Get Screwed: How to Protect Yourself as an Independent Musician." And for so many years, musicians went into this with went into their careers with a lot of passion, a lot of high hopes, and the high hopes, the grandeur, the desire to become big rock stars caused musicians to basically lose their perspective and sign really awful deals with record companies.
Right. Yeah.
And they got to live the life, no doubt about it. That, especially if they did sell records, they got to stay in first class hotels. They got to play in really big arenas. They had the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll, the whole bit. But then when it was over, they found out that, hey, we owe a whole bunch of money back to this record label. Or even while their career was still going, you take a band like Badfinger, how much money they got screwed out of, and how they lost their autonomy because of unscrupulous management. That kind of stuff continued to happen for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So her book will still be helpful today.
I think Klaatu still owes Capitol Records. CMO, have a great night.
Oh. Okay.
He was down in the queue. I think nice. Klaatu still owes Capitol Records, I believe, for the for Hope, which is amazing.
So many. Yeah, I mean, and if you especially the big ones, if you ask them, would you do it all over again? Probably a lot of them would, but I'm sure they would. Their lives would be a lot better if they didn't have all the debt and people just discarding them when they when they couldn't produce product for labels or for management, summarily dismissed. And while they may be in our memories, they suffered great loss of so many things. So the book How to Get Screwed is still, I think it's still applicable today.
Sure.
Granted, the major labels aren't going to ever sign bands like that anymore. There's no such thing as development deals or anything like that. To get signed now, they have to think you're going to sell 3 million copies. And that's it. But there are indie labels out there, and some of them are run by good people and some of them not. So this book could definitely be very helpful. So having Erin on will illuminate a lot of things. Hopefully,
be a cool show.
Yeah, she seems like a pretty cool person. So that'll be on the 29th.
And then we're into the holiday season. Yeah, we'll be in the holiday season in December, and you never know what's going to happen then. I mean,
absolutely.
Hey, I wanted to ask you early on, because we get into the show and stuff. Did you get your Fred Harris card in the autographs and things? Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Yes, I did get them.
Yeah, very nice. One of our earlier guests from a month ago at the Great American Baseball Card Flipping Trading Bubblegum Book sent us really nice when he was the Burdick Award winner for Sabre, which is the baseball awards.
Sorry if this is being lost on those lists.
No, we're just kind of fanboys here. He's one of our favorite baseball book authors, and he sent us real nice memorabilia from his award-winning night for the Burdick Jeff Burdick Award.
Yeah, I also got some really cool watches. Here's a vintage
nice.
Vintage Accutron Space View, which is stunning looking. Nice. John Johnson, who's like the guru of Accutron, sold this to me, and it's running. It's like almost perfect time. This watch is from probably the early 70s.
Wow!
And he just restored it and cleaned it up really nicely.
Really nice.
I can't wear it too often. After all, it's like 50-something years old, but it's doing great. And then one very similar to what Mark showed us last week. This is an Earnshaw Baron, with I really like the date display up here. They did that right, and a day and month display down here, and an open heart movement right over there.
I love it.
Very, very inexpensive. If you're looking for a watch and you think this one is cool, they're having a sale on these now, and it's definitely within a lot of people's budgets.
Yeah,
so
it's Earnshaw, EARNSHAW. So just Google Earnshaw watches. Really beautiful watches, very well made watches, and they are they're doing a great sale right now. Not that we don't get any kickback from Earnshaw unless they send us a message right now and say, hey, here's a kickback. But no,
they should be sending us some more of their product, I think.
We just love it. If we love the product, we're going to talk about it. So
there you go. IPO, like I mentioned, IPO New York beginning next Thursday at the Parkside Lounge. Thursday through Sunday. This includes afternoon and evening shows on Saturday and Sunday.
Where's the Parkside Lounge?
It's a little bit east of the village. It's on Houston, so not too far from Katz's Deli. That's where we'll be. Rena and I will be staying at a hotel right near there, so we'll be in the middle of it. Yeah, it's just like a 5-10 minute.
You're not going to be at the Off Soho Suites this year, or?
Oh God, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
So we'll be there. Then the following week, we're IPOs in Boston at the Square Root. We've got 4 great shows, all evening shows. The Friday show is Red on Red Night, which is paying tribute to Justine Koval, the owner of Red on Red Records, who tragically passed away from a heart attack at age 59 only a few months ago. So her memory is still lingering in everybody's mind, and we want to pay tribute. So we're going to have a really cool night on that Friday, as well as all the other nights. Should be great. Following week, we'll be in Toronto at a club called the Painted Lady, maybe named after Ian Thomas's hit "Painted Ladies." Ian Thomas being a Canadian artist who had that hit in the 70s in Canada. Anyway, so we're going to have 4 shows: Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon at the Painted Lady and James Clark Institute, who Moe produced. They'll be playing along with 20 other bands from Toronto area and beyond. We'll have one U.S. band, the Incurables, coming up, so that'll be nice. But yeah, it should all be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Be a 20-day trip for me. Yeah. So I'll be. Maybe I'll come down to visit, Mark.
Well, I was going to say, you talk about coming down to visit, but I'm just writing all this information down for next Thursday, the 9th. Maybe I'll try to make a trip up and.
Oh yeah, you should, but come early because it's a small club.
Yeah.
And the Jane Seymour people are going to probably be coming later. And I don't know.
That's a great name for a band, the Jane Seymour people.
It may very well sell out before some people have a chance to get there. So I would recommend, if you do show up, you come on early so we know you're going to get in.
Well, if I don't show up, you should do a Material Issues promo with Jane Seymour. Get her to film a little,
Well, you can be sure if I do get to know her, I'll certainly ask if she'd like to be a guest of ours. So
wouldn't that be cool? That'd be fun.
That would be amazing. So hopefully that comes to pass. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you never know. You gotta let it roll. But hey, another great show tonight, my friend. That was a lot of fun with Moe Berg of the Pursuit of Happiness and the Trans Canada Highwaymen. Great stuff. Man, we keep rolling here at Material Issues after 127 episodes now. They're all archived on Facebook here. If you joined the group over on materialissues.com, over on YouTube. Check it out. And of course, we do have wonderful Material Issues t-shirts you can order, or sweatshirts, or hoodies, or whatever. The link's going along the bottom down there. It's material-issues.myspreadshop.com, and you can.
Have we been getting some orders? I know I posted about it. I posted about it a few days ago on Facebook.
We had hold on. We had let me go back here. We've actually had 3 orders. Doesn't tell me who they're coming from. It just tells me there's 3 orders. But this is just what the design looks like. And of course, you can you can order your own color or type of T-shirt and things. But that's what it is. Materialissues.com.
Yeah, isn't there a sweatshirt also?
Yeah, you can order whatever kind of sweatshirt, T-shirt, hoodie, edible underwear. Did anybody catch that? Yeah. So that's a cool thing about that shop is like whatever. Thank you, Tim. Whatever you feel like wearing or ordering, you can do that. It's just the logo is kind of cool and it advertises
It
our
really
Material
is.
Issues.
Did you design that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice
Oh,
job.
Thank you. And it advertises the show, so you can be walking around wherever you're walking around, and people at materialissues.com. Well, I'm going to have to put that into my phone. So.
I did. I wore it to my local record shop, Amoeba Music, and
cool.
There were definitely people checking it out. So
nice. Well, great. All right, my friend. We'll see you next Wednesday right here with Jeff Murphy of the Shoes on Material Issues.
Yeah, and we will be starting 2 hours later than usual.
So next Wednesday.
Yeah,
next Wednesday will be.
It will be 8 p.m. because that fits with Jeff's schedule. So
that's all right. Sometimes we gotta bend and massage the schedule a little bit.
Yeah, we're happy to do it if necessary. Obviously, if you can make our usual time, that so much the better. But if you're a guest and you can't, we'll accommodate. So
we'll figure it out. It's all good. We're having nothing but fun here on Material Issues.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, everybody, have a great night. Thanks for sticking around with us, and thanks for joining us every Wednesday. We appreciate everybody doing that. So have a super one. Thank you, David. Loved Arena.
Loved it, Ches. Thank you, Mark.